I've gone out there and met one dude who was gutted by an it, and a lady who was
broken
legged and asking for help. And between their whole power and scavenging, they've managed to do like a half a pack of cookies, some fucking Dunkaroos, and a quarter of a water bottle. And they're out of ammo, I guess, because this gun has no ammo, so...
Hi, everybody. Nate here. Before this episode starts, I just wanted to say a few things. First and foremost, this episode, at the end, we have an interview with Mr. Mike Lombardo, who wrote, edited, and directed this film. If you want to skip directly to that, you can skip to the approximately hour and 7-minute mark. There also are some topics in this movie that can be a bit heavy. So if that is something that might be a little bit too much for you, you can skip this episode. And lastly, I did lose some of the audio on my side of the interview with Mr. Lombardo. So there might be some bits where there might be some space that I would be responding to Mike, but I'm not there. But all the same, it's still a very coherent interview, and I hope you guys will listen to it and enjoy it all the same. Thank you guys so much for listening, and have a happy holiday. My name is Nate.
My name is Mike.
My name is Evan.
And what the hell was that?
What the hell?
I don't know what spin I want to put on what the hell was that, because we're going to be talking to the fella who had a lot of involvement in this movie. So it feels weird to talk about this movie in anything but like a positive light.
Which is a great time to talk about how we are going to have the great pleasure of speaking with somebody who was very big behind this movie. He wrote, edited, and directed it, to the best of my knowledge. His name is Mike Lombardo.
Yes.
And he agreed to have an interview with us, which will be tacked on to the end of this episode.
Now, look, in like the email, you told the fella,
yes,
because you were speaking through the email.
I did. Yes.
Writing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you told him, like, hey, if you listen to any of the episodes of our podcast, you'll get the inclination to think that all we do is, like, watch movies and then just, like, yell really insulting things at the people who made them.
I mean,
which is not inaccurate, like, as far as a read of what we do here goes. And so he said, like, we assure you, like, that's not our intention here. And that's true. Our intention is not just to watch this movie. Well, was not to watch this movie. Well, look, okay, look, that's a bad way to frame it. Going into this film, as a bottom line, we said, like, hey, let's not just watch this and be like, oh, ha, 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 terrible, whatever. Because we didn't know what it was going to be. And, and I'm having a hard time because, in all honesty, there's a lot about the film that I didn't enjoy. Mm-hmm. And to be frank, I was fairly bored for much of it.
Yeah.
And so trying to grapple that with the respect I have for anybody doing anything well, look, it's one thing to sit there when you have like $1 million and you make like a film that is just uninspired and terrible, and you can just be like, fuck people who have way too many resources to do this type of thing. It's another thing entirely to like come up with an idea, make a film, get with like your friends and your family and scratch some resources together to make a film that, as far as it looks, is surprisingly high quality. Mm-hmm. Like, I've seen independent films and they do not look this good. Like, the scenes were shot well, the props turned out well, like all of it looks good, like passable, like no huge red flag that's like, oh, this is a super low budget like indie film, like it doesn't look grainy or poorly framed. So like, as far as the production of it goes, it looks really good. It's just a lot of the other stuff where it kind of falls apart for me. So I have immense respect for the people who did this thing, and I don't think it looks amateurish, but there are definitely amateurish things that I can't that just they it's just hard.
I loved it all.
Yeah, I can understand those criticisms, and I think there are some things with the story that personally I don't think were bad, but I do wish had maybe been fleshed out a little more. But that being said, I personally, I was not really bored during it. I was very intrigued. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, like, we do have context of, like, oh, cool, well, actually, yeah, let me give a little bit of context to listeners.
Why don't you?
Yeah, I think I will.
We
Thanks.
have context. Oh, wait a minute. No, we don't. Let me give you some context.
So a few weeks ago at this point, I went to the New Jersey Horror Convention.
Huh.
Wow.
One of the things that I saw there was a booth where an independent film company was selling some films that they made. And let me see what they're called because I can't remember.
I think they're called like Bofo or something.
I think
Blu-ray?
Blu-ray production. No, Real Splatter Productions.
Yes.
Real
splatter.
being R-E-E-L.
Real splatter, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Like movie reel.
I wonder
Yes.
where in Jersey they are. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I saw their booth, and I started having a conversation with one of the gentlemen behind the booth. And it happened to be none other than Mr. Mike Lombardo, who, as I mentioned,
King Mike.
directed, wrote, and edited this film. And he was telling me about some of the other films that that this production team has done. One of which is one that I am very, very excited to watch as well, called Straight Edge Kegger. And I'm just ecstatic to watch that. But anyway, when he was giving me the pitch for this movie, he described it as The Road meets Miracle on 34th Street.
Right.
That Christmas movie, anyway.
That was 13th.
That famous... No, I don't think so.
Which is unfortunate because I haven't seen either one of those movies.
Nightmare on Sesame Street.
I think I've seen Miracle on 34th Street, but it's been a long time. I've read The Road and I've seen The Road.
Okay.
So I'm quite
What's
familiar.
it about?
Post-apocalyptic dad and his son trying to stay alive in this crazy world.
Right on.
Apocalyptic daddy
Yeah.
issues.
Anywho, I met Mike Lombardo, and the pitch that he gave me for this movie was that this is The Road meets Miracle on 34th Street. And so that was intriguing enough to me that I wanted to buy a copy.
Yep.
And so I did. And, of course, I had to mention that I do a movie podcast with my friend, and we just might have to do this for our Christmas episode, to which Mr. Lombardo said, well, please let me know when you do that. I would love to be on your podcast. And as Mike and I kind of stated already, with the nature of the show, it seemed to not make a lot of sense to have him on as a guest in our traditional sense, like we have our buddy Evan here as a guest, where we watch
What do you
this
mean, I'm
movie
Mike?
together. And
I'm Mike Lombardo.
oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lombardi, Mr. Lombardo.
Lombardi.
God, how dare you?
Nice.
But yeah, I don't think that our format really works too well to have somebody who made a film watch it with us and do our normal thing. So he was gracious enough to let us do an actual interview, which will be a first for the show. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully this is something that we can do more of. I would be very interested in that. But all the same, with that context, having this movie in my hand without even popping it into the Blu-ray player, I am already super invested in this. Like, this is something to me that I'm super excited about. And again, just talking to this guy, and again, coming from a background that we do where we kind of do what they do with music. And so kind of having that kind of like shared experience of having something that you're really passionate about. And yeah, it might not have certain professional qualities that people come to expect from high budget
Right.
art pieces. I can really appreciate what it does despite not having that budget. And again, maybe for in some parts not having exactly like all the right story beats in my mind. For what it should have. But then again, I can draw parallels with like music that I like and people that I support, like on the merit that we're both doing the same thing, even though I might not 100% be into that type of music or something. I can still have an appreciation and try to wholeheartedly support it.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Hell
with
yeah,
that.
brother.
100%.
But yeah, with that, I really enjoyed it. I could definitely see myself watching this again and really enjoying it.
I liked that it was kind of short.
Yeah.
I think
This is like
Hour
it's
11
71.
or
Yeah,
something?
71 minutes long. Which hour 11.
Huh. It felt shorter. I
Time
think
flies when you're having fun, buddy.
Yeah. No, I think it worked. It didn't drag on.
Yeah, I liked it. I'm excited to talk about it some more.
Shall we dive in?
All right, plot recap, baby. This is going to be really short because it's one of those atmosphere movies. It's not really like a plot-heavy movie.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. Which, again, I think will be good for tacking on an interview to the end. So, if I'm not mistaken, the movie starts with the self-described 90s style Christmas.
Yeah.
And we have I was going to say 3 main characters, which I guess to some extent is true, but really 2 main characters and one not 2 main character. And that is Riley, who is the young son of this couple. Scott?
Simon.
And
I actually have no idea what the mother's name is.
and the mother. We'll call her the mother for now. We'll figure it out.
Like the thing in the apple cider vinegar. The mother.
That's her apple cider vinegar.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
When you buy apple cider vinegar, it's just when you buy
It always says from the mother.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
interesting.
it's like same thing with like kombucha. There's like the little scraps of bacteria inside it, and so if you buy,
I think
Organic
it's something to do with when you like grow plants. Like there's like a mother plant, and then when you like cut pieces off that plant, and
Mother
grow new
Earth.
plants for it. There's like the sister or
Facts,
daughter
bro.
plants or something like that. So I think the mother is like the original plant or something like that.
Huh.
Color. That's a very low level understanding.
I
of what's
think
going
for
on. I'm sure
vinegar,
I've
the original
confused 50
plant is
million
the
things.
original little bacteria, SCOBY little dude.
Right.
That's all
Scobly will do. Yeah.
floaty bits.
Yeah. I love this global you do.
So they're having Christmas, and and yeah, it's a nice little Christmas moment
Ring, ting,
that you
tingling,
might come to
jingling,
expect
jingling,
from perhaps, hopefully, your own family experiences if you celebrate Christmas
my
or
God.
any other Christmas movie you've seen.
Yeah.
And nothing too of note here. It more or less ends with Riley saying that he wants to go outside to play, and the dad saying, "You know what? Let's go do that, my boy."
He's a dick about it.
No, I think he's
No, it's pretty chill.
yeah,
about
he's
it,
just
yeah.
being
He's a
pretty
dick
coy
bef-
here.
he's
Later,
the-
he's kind of a dick.
No,
When
he's a
they're
dick-
doing
he's
the
a
photo
dick about
shoot.
eating Santa's cookies. That's for fucking
Yeah.
sure. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that.
Oh, Santa doesn't like these cookies, so I'm
Yeah,
just gonna
that.
fucking shove
Not
them
even
in.
what he was saying, just his general affect.
He did
Yeah.
just seem generally
rubbed me the
detached.
wrong way.
Yeah.
I think there's like a Matthew Perry-esque sarcasm from Friends that was meant to play, but I wasn't picking it up. It just seemed kind of dickish, I guess.
I will agree that I was like, all right, dude, come on, just take the picture during the other part. But
Oh,
for
yeah.
this part, I was like, they're having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So they then go outside.
Right.
And however, the mother then very quickly realizes that Riley left his hat.
Yep.
And so she grabs it to go give it to him because it's a cold winter's day. And
Indeed.
Yeah.
and she goes outside to find that it is a little bit more than a cold winter's day, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so I believe it's supposed to be like a nuclear winter kind of
Sure.
scenario,
Yeah.
where there's tons of nuclear fallout and everything is very ashen and
seemed like it.
not great. And at first, this seems maybe a little bit out of place because the house, as far as we can tell, is like perfectly fine. And perhaps that is because she wakes up and we find that it's a dream.
Oh my God.
I got to figure out what her name is. This is going to drive me insane.
That's
Kelly.
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 All right, Kelly.
Yeah, so it is kind of interesting because I do wonder with some of the scenes where they're like, because actually, interestingly enough, we watched most of a documentary that was on the special features of this film, and one of the things that Mike Lombardo says is flashback scenes, and in a lot of instances, yeah, they're framed as flashback scenes. However, they're also most of those times framed as like dream sequences as well.
Right.
So I wonder if they are meant to be flashbacks. This is what happened. Or if they are supposed to be kind of this blurred line between like a flashback that's like recalling the past.
I feel
and
like
then
just
that.
the opening Christmas scene is a flashback, and the rest are like fever dreams or
Yeah,
something.
I guess so. Anywho, flashback, dream, nightmare. She wakes up.
Bam.
Oh, Riley, my son, here you are. But the father, Simon, is nowhere to be found in this very moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's where things actually get a little bit confusing for me as well with the...
Timeline of events.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the better way to put it. Because it seems to me we are shown that it is just Riley and Kelly
Yeah.
in this bunker when we're shown the present time.
Right.
Then what I am unsure of whether this is supposed to be a flashback or if this is supposed to be something that happens just shortly after they wake up and the father, Simon, is just hanging out somewhere else in the bunker at this time.
Right.
And I guess either way, I don't think it really makes much of a difference to how things would play out. But we learn that Simon, the father, has to go scrounging out for some food.
Right.
Supplies are getting pretty low, and it's looking pretty bleak for the Enck family, E-N-C-K.
Okay.
Regardless of what the actual timeline is and what order we are shown these scenes,
Right.
the father has to go out to get these supplies. And before he goes,
Gotta go, son.
he gives them 3 bullets in case, in his words, things get bad.
Right.
Which, as Mike pointed out, things are pretty bad.
Yeah.
You might want to put an asterisk that says worse than they are.
Yeah. What you meant to say is in case things get worse. Yeah.
But all the same, Simon's gone. The 3 of them are left with 3 bullets and I believe no gun.
Yeah, evidently. 'Cause I guess he took the revolver, housing the bullets, and then gave her the bullets and was like, "Here you are. These should do just fine."
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she had to get the gun from
Yeah.
later. Yeah.
But things are bleak, and they bide their time and do what they can, eat what little food they have, but eventually something's got to give.
So he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go find us more food," and Kelly's like, "Please no,
Yeah.
like please don't go. You have a son, you have me. I'm pretty sure you're gonna die out there. Like, please don't do this." And he's like, "Well, if I don't go try to find us food right now, we're going to run out of food very soon, and we're all dead anyway. So I have to go. But don't you worry. I promise you everything will be just fine, and I'll be back. We'll be good. I'm just going to go get food real quick, and I'm going to come home, and I'm on channel 2. So I'm going to leave. We have these walkie-talkies. I'm on channel 2. Keep yours to channel 2. Don't open the door for anybody unless it's me. And with that, I'm off."
Farewell.
And then he goes, "Oh, God.
They're eating me. They're eating me.
Okay.
Which actually, I guess, maybe this bit is a good point to maybe also say. So it's left a little bit ambiguous as to what exactly is going on in the outside
true.
world
The
of
apocalypse,
the bunker.
yeah.
Yes. So again, I think we're clued in that there's like radiation of some sort, nuclear catastrophe, if you will. But we're also given hints that maybe there are like creatures that are maybe like zombie-like in nature are also going about, which we don't get like a glimpse as to what they look like or what their deal is aside
And it
from...
could be multiple creatures, or it could just be one. Because
that's true.
We'll get to the point later, but then
Yes,
she was
'cause that-
saying like it.
Yeah.
Oh, that is fair. Yeah, I guess that kind of did go over my head.
Maybe it was
even
Santa.
though that was kind of something I was thinking. Yes. So,
Oh shit.
but anyway, yeah. So it is left a little ambiguous as to like what exactly is going on, which on one hand might be a little bit frustrating because you want to know more about the world that these characters
maybe.
are in.
I don't
But on the other hand,
I thought it was cool.
no, I do too.
That's
Yeah, I'm
like
trying to put it into words. I think of it as like if you are following these characters, you should know as much as these characters know, and I think it's very likely that if nuclear apocalypse were to happen today, I wouldn't be like, well, yes, of course, the crazy monster that's been gutting everything is this.
Right.
I just know the inside of my bunker and outside is death.
Yeah.
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 But anywho,
you don't have to. I don't think you have to originally define that type of stuff. Yeah, no.
No, you definitely don't have to. Yeah, but death is outside, no matter what form it takes. Everybody seems to know that, but you know, when the stomachs start growling,
when stomachs start growling, into the wasteland we go prowling.
there we go.
Yes.
There we go. That's why we have this guy on here.
Smart guy.
Yeah. And yeah, so some time passes, and I think it becomes pretty clear that Simon is probably not coming back.
Yeah.
Or at least not anytime soon with supplies.
Right.
And so Kelly at this point pretty much decides, you know what, it's do or die. It is now time for me to go prowling as our stomachs are indeed howling.
Howling.
Growling.
No, they're howling.
They're howling and growling.
I know
They're
my
doing
stomach
both.
does that when I get hungry.
Also,
Yeah.
before she leaves, one of the most oddly chilling scenes is when the kid comes, or what's his name?
Riley.
Riley comes up to Kelly, and it's like, Mom, I'm hungry. And she, like, cooks for him. She, like, pours this can of pork and beans onto the pan, and something about the lighting
Yeah.
or just the somberness and how long it focuses on this can of beans is creepy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
And it
And
happens
it's surprisingly like devoid of pork. This pork and beans. I mean, I got
yeah,
really
I
ripping
wasn't
them on the
satisfied
pork.
by the pork
A lot of
content.
beans.
Yeah.
Not a lot of pork.
That was probably the least. That was my biggest complaint about the movie. Not enough pork in the pork and beans. It's really just beans.
Now that you mentioned some of the things that go on before she treks out into that big scary world, is there's the bit where Riley's playing and putting on masks and hats and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're playing dress up and stuff. Riley puts on a Viking hat. He puts on a pirate hat. They're doing their bit, and then Riley then goes and grabs this mask that's like a Grim Reaper style skull with like
It's
a
more
hood.
like Skeletor, really.
I guess so. Yeah, Skeletor kind of dealio. Hey man. He's like, but anyway, yeah. So he wears this mask, and Kelly is just like, nope. Get that off right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, she really freaks out, and she's just like, I'm sorry, I don't like that mask. Take it off, please.
Yeah, I guess that never got fully explained.
No, not really. Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, the specter of death and all that. Probably not.
It could just be that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
probably just don't want to be reminded
whatever you
of the
you wanna
grinning
imagine
face
it
of
is.
the skull
Yeah.
here in post-apocalyptic wasteland world.
Yeah. I think that's probably pretty close to it.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, enough beating around the bush. It's time to go and get some food.
Yeah.
And so she dons her gas mask
And garden trowel.
and her garden trowel for protection.
Uh-huh.
And she makes sure to check the point to see that it is sufficiently pointy enough to protect herself.
Seems to pass the test, yeah.
Yeah, and so she treks out into the world. When she first steps outside of the bunker, one of the first things she sees while she's trekking out in the world to get some food is a little toy that she gets a hold of, and I believe on the bottom it has Riley's initials on
Yeah,
it,
it seemed
kind of like
like
an
it.
Andy from Toy Story kind of dealio.
Right.
And so she puts it in her bag for perhaps something later on. And she starts looking around for stuff.
And there is nothing.
Absolutely
Just nothing. And none of the cabinets. I mean, there's a skeleton in the bathtub, but no meat on the bones.
Which that's one thing I pointed out when we watched this.
That was one of my
I'll point it
favorite
out. Yeah,
scenes.
is that she's pretty like fucked up
Yeah.
upon seeing
Yeah, this one might be.
the skeleton. Which exactly that, as one might be. I think it's very common to see a movie of this type
Yeah,
where
with like really hardened souls,
yeah,
apparently. You know?
where it's like-
just like, it's the 5th skeleton I've seen this week. You know?
Yeah. Which, I mean, yeah, I'm sure that there is some type of desensitization that would happen if you
Yeah,
were
but
to
she's
see
been-
something
she's
on
been
that.
bunkering
like
this whole
Yeah.
time.
That's fair.
She doesn't even want to
Yeah.
see a mask of a skull, let alone
Yeah.
like a very
Or like
literal
you were
skeleton.
saying, like usually it'll show like a scream,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's just it. But
Yeah.
it like really just stayed on her, like
Yeah,
more or
and
less
she was like,
having
I
a
need
panic
to sit
attack
down
in the
for a second.
bathroom.
This is
Yeah.
fucked.
Yeah,
I liked
I
that.
thought that was cool.
I did as well.
I feel like it might be worth noting that there's also that scene when she's like scrounging about where she like looks down this hallway and kind of has like a vision that Riley is just like in that room just like chilling without like a gas mask or anything, and she's like, Mom, I'm scared. And then she sees like a bunch of skeletons when she like kind of like snaps Right. to reality.
But yeah, so she keeps on trucking, going through,
Finding nothing.
finding nothing except
Until
a body. And I thought this was her husband at first, which I don't think that's the case.
No.
Yeah. But she finds a body,
Unless
and
she then finds her
that is
sister-in-law.
not
Yeah.
what's his face.
Yeah.
I forget his name.
Simon.
That is not Simon.
Yeah.
Says who?
Huh?
Huh?
You proud
Simon
of that?
says.
Yeah.
What? I
So
was
she-
doing that bit like at least 5 times before this moment.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
pick up on it at all.
Yeah, well,
I'm a bit slow. As
I'm
you
a
see.
subtle comedian, really.
So she finds an eviscerated body, and it is that eviscerated.
You're gone.
Yeah.
I'm saying
And
it's more gutted than eviscerated.
Tomato.
Eviscerated.
So she's like, fuck. Well,
shit, dude.
time to keep on keeping on, I guess. And so there is residue, I guess is the best word. The chemicals that you would find in a glow stick
Yes.
are on the floor, trailing to a door. And so she opens said door and finds that there is a
Wounded girl.
Yes,
Another
a wounded
body.
girl, and she's not wearing a gas mask. Which this is the one thing that I wish that maybe there is a little bit of like, huh,
Maybe it's a matter of
interesting.
time.
Yeah, I guess so. But anyway, this girl is not wearing her gas mask, and then Kelly takes off her gas mask to communicate with her. And here is where we learn that that body is the brother of this young lady. And I believe that Kelly and this lady maybe had a familiarity with each other. Unimportant, really.
Who knows?
I think so. It seems
Yeah.
like it.
But all the same, she's like, yeah, my brother died right out there. It came by and killed him, and I hid in here, and I could just hear his screams. Even through his gas mask, I could hear those screams. And
She goes, you have to help me. You have to help me.
yeah, and she's like, "Can you stand?" And then she's like, "Yeah." Oh no,
And then her leg goes.
Yeah, yeah.
She goes, all right, maybe I was bluffing on the whole being able to walk thing.
And Kelly, very, I guess, understandably in the situation, says, "Well, your leg's broken, and I got a kid." And she snatches her bag.
I'll have you know, I have a son.
Yeah. Yeah, and so she leaves broken leg girl to die.
Yep, and takes her supply bag, assumably.
Mm-hmm.
And she heads on back to the bunker and starts counting the loot.
So much loot.
Yeah.
There's a pack of crackers with some cheese or some kind of yogurt.
Yeah,
And
it's like, you know,
Icing.
I don't know
Icing,
if you
yeah.
ever had like those like
Dunkaroos.
cinnamons. Yeah, Dunkaroos. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Those look pretty bussin'.
It's like Dunkaroos, if not exactly Dunkaroos.
There's half a package of cookies.
Yeah, there's
5
cookies.
It's pretty good. Yeah, there's a
some
glow
Dunkaroos
stick.
with the frosting.
Let's see.
There's a
else?
gun.
There's a gun. Oh, a quarter of a bottle of water for
Yes.
that water
yeah,
they're
and
looking
that's
for.
actually it. I'm pretty sure.
That is almost
That's about
certainly it. Things are honestly not any better for them since before she left the bunker, and now she has the guilt of having this girl die in the bathroom.
She has the
And
guilt and also the realization that I did everything I could and nothing is still better,
Yes.
which I think is what leads to the next piece of plot.
Yeah, I think she just realized at this point, like, there's nothing. Like,
Yeah, we're
there's
done for.
Like,
It's-
there's nothing, you know, like, there's no food. There's no anything out there. Like, I've gone out
There's
there.
no husband.
Yeah, I've gone out there and met one dude who was gutted by an it,
Yeah.
and a lady who was
Broken leg by an
broken
it.
legged and asking for help. And
Mhm.
between their whole power and scavenging, they've managed to do like a half a pack of cookies, some fucking Dunkaroos,
Mhm.
and a quarter of a water bottle. And they're out of ammo, I guess, because this gun has no ammo. So
But
Mhm.
wait, I have 3 bullets. Perhaps I can shoot
Thanks, hubby.
myself. So she then,
kid first.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So she struggles to open the revolver and have the barrel be exposed. I don't know gun words. And the cylinder, the thing where you put the gun, or the gun where you put the gun,
Yeah.
where you put the bullets. I don't know. You get the point, I
Yes.
hope. And so she loads the 3 bullets into this gun, and then she tries to close it. And we find that these
She
bullets...
loads 2 of the bullets into the gun.
Does she?
There's only 2 people in the bunker.
But didn't he leave 3 bullets?
Yeah, but she only took 2 of them
All right, sure.
and tried to
Why
load them
not?
into the gun. What do you mean, why not?
Why not? Who cares? 2 or 3 doesn't
What do you
matter.
mean, who cares?
So she tries
Okay.
to close the gun back up, and then at this point she realizes, uh-oh, these bullets don't work for this gun.
Yep.
Bullet machine, bro.
Yeah. And so with that, she's like, well, I better find something else I can kill myself with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's weird because like she's like, well, the bullets, I don't know what the subtext is exactly, but it seems like the bullets didn't work. She's kind of like, well, fuck, there goes that plan.
And I think she
Anyway.
was just grabbing a can
Yeah, I
and
guess I'll clean
happened
up
to
a
like
bit.
cut herself on the lid
Right.
of the can, which that's very sharp, mind
It's
you.
true.
Yeah.
Can happen. I mean, fuck.
happened.
Even Lombardo
happened
was
to me.
telling the story.
Yeah, which
About
I want to ask
how,
him about. I'm curious. I
Like
want to know more
sliced
about
pineapples almost paralyzed his thumb.
it. Yeah.
So clearly, it's sharp enough to cut skin and paralyze thumbs,
Yeah.
potentially.
Seen it 11 times.
So she's like, "Ow! I just cut myself."
And then like a light, a light bulb goes off of her head. She's like, "Wait a second."
I'll just cut myself. And so like she's like, all right, time to go kill myself. And she's like, wait, I have to kill my child
I got
first.
this kid.
Yeah, how
She
can
goes, well,
And she's like,
it is
well,
Christmas
yeah.
Eve, so I better at least
Well,
make it
I think
fun.
also because she's like, look, the serrated can edge, like that'll do for me. I don't think I quite have the heart to do that to slice up my son with this can
she's like,
lid.
I can't physically murder my son. Like I can't like have my hands killing my kid, right?
Exactly. So she starts to look for alternative methods.
And I don't know if this is when she looks at the calendar and it's like it's 2 days before Christmas.
I think that was it earlier, but it doesn't really matter.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, she knows it's 2 days before Christmas
Mm-hmm.
and like assesses the food, and she's like, all right, I have to kill me and my kid.
But yeah, so she's like, well, I better
am I gonna
get
murder my child?
I better start concocting my murder desserts. And so she scrounges around the bunker and finds Weed Killer.
This morning on Food Network. Today we're going to
I'm
be
your
making
host.
a great Christmas treat for you and your
For
family.
your least
For you-
favorite uncle.
For
at
you
least
and your
for your
starving son.
family.
Your racist uncle that you
Yeah.
always...
Yeah, that one you keep complaining about.
Got just the thing for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's topical because you've seen all those commercials about how Roundup is causing cancer in people. Well, we got something much more effective than Roundup
And killing
much
dogs.
quicker than cancer. What?
And killing dogs.
Oh, and yes, true. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure my uncle's dog developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma because he was licking up Roundup. Anyway, go on.
Rest in peace.
I know, great dog. Loved that fella. Big shaggy sheepdog.
So she takes the Dunkaroo and the half package of cookies, and she makes 3 little cookie sandwiches with the cookie and the Dunkaroo yogurt cheese spread on
I think
top
it's
of it. And then some really cool green sprinkles that don't look very appetizing. They look like...
it's like crystallized weed killer, I guess.
Which I didn't know was a thing. Which I don't know.
I
if it
don't
is.
know if that's a thing. We'll have to look.
It is
into
in
that.
this world.
I'm sure it is. I mean, they bought it. It
Um,
wasn't CGI, I know that much.
True.
So she's like, well, this will kill my son. And then I have my trusty old can top. You know what, though? It is 2 days before Christmas. Christmas is coming up.
It's like my kid's last day is nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So she then takes this time to embrace in the festivities of the holiday. And they start
decorate their
decorating the
den.
bunker. Yeah.
Also, I think, no, this kid is not sad or scared, except maybe like once when his
Yeah,
mom's
he's just
about to
chilling.
leave. He's like,
Oh yeah, I mean,
he's
well,
like,
like
"Oh,
I know
it's
how he
Christmas."
feels because he announces it, right? Like he walks up to his mom and he's like, "Mom, I'm hungry," and I'm like, "I think he's hungry," and he walks up to his mom. He's like,
I'm
"Mom,
scared."
I'm scared." And I'm
I
like,
don't know. I
he might
think
be scared.
I think he might be suppressing a bit too, because I think it'd be a little more normal to be a little more, scared. in
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Also,
yeah. Clearly,
situation.
yeah. I don't know what to read into it. Either putting to one side whether or not it's limited acting ability of the child.
That's
putting
kind of
it-
what it's just like, again, with the context of this film, I don't know that it was like, all right, casting call for, it's
child.
probably, it was
Trained
like,
child
cool, like, hey, friends that normally make movies with me,
right.
this is what I need. Are any of your kids available?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if I were to do that, I'd say it's probably the kid. Like maybe he just wasn't familiar enough with the world outside. Like clearly he experienced Christmas before, but like kids is kids. Like that's his world now. So maybe he's just living in it and making way in his kind of innocent child mind.
I would say he's had to mature too early and step into this role where he has to protect his mom and survive in this world as a young kid, and doesn't show his scared emotions.
Yeah, it's a good question. I wonder if he like conceptualizes that his dad is like dead. Or if his mom's just constantly like, no, he'll be back with so much food. Anyway,
That honestly, that's kind of what I take it to be. That she is. She's like, no, he's gonna be fine.
but
Because when she finally takes the batteries out, I feel like that's her being like, all right, like,
He's not
I need to let go of the idea
Yeah.
that he's coming back.
Yeah.
Bunker.
But it's Christmas time. And
Christmas time.
yeah.
Christmas time.
Her child's last days are going to be good ones. And Christmas is a
Mm.
perfect holiday to do it. So they bust out all the Christmas decorations in the basement and find a radio. And she's like, oh, let's play this music. And the kid's like, oh, yeah, it's a great idea, Mom. Let's play this music. And she tries to play music, and the radio has no batteries, and it can't play music. And the kid's like, oh, I'm
Christmas
disappointed.
is ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is when she realizes, you know what? I need to give up on this fantasy that my husband is going to come back.
Yeah, she's like, the
I've
only
already
batteries
accepted
we
death
have-
for my son and I.
Right,
so.
yeah. She's like, the only batteries we have are from this walkie-talkie. But this is like the channel that my husband will call in on if he reaches the cellar door. And she has to make the hard decision of letting go of the idea that her husband is alive.
Go.
And she takes the AA batteries out of the walkie-talkie and puts them into the C-cell battery slots in the radio and closes it. And the radio works now. And it's really, really cool. It plays, Christmassy type jingly stuff. And they set up Christmas decorations. Bum, bum.
Yeah, it's really sad.
So she's
Christmas
like,
time.
all right, it's Christmas. And the kids, either I forget who, but someone brings up like, oh, we got to like write a letter to Santa, know? And she's like, yeah, do that. Like write your letter to Santa for what you want. And he's like, how are we going to get it to Santa if we like can't go outside?
There's no
send it to the North
Post-apocalyptic postman.
Pole. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
He's like, how are we gonna get it to Santa without the mailman?
And she's like, actually, I have an idea. But first, you got to write North Pole on the outside so it doesn't get lost when we do this. And so he does that, and she's like, alrighty. And then she goes...
We normally do this with the chimney,
Yeah,
but I
she
think
goes,
this will work.
Yeah, right, exactly. She's like, usually it's a tuning for this stuff.
Which
But she
actually,
said- what?
sorry to interrupt you,
No, you're
but I might have to Google this because, of course, we were like kind of like joking about like who. Like, is that a thing? I wonder, it might be a tradition where it's like, oh, yeah, like you put your letters in the chimney and they go up to Santa Claus because that's where, like, Santa goes, you know?
Yeah, I hope the parents get to read it first. Yeah.
Could be. Here's what I want for Christmas.
All right,
Write it
well,
again,
you
sweetie.
hand it to me and I'll envelope it up and throw it in the fire. No, I just threw it in the fire. Oh, boy. Oh, jeez. Well, why don't you tell me what you want for Christmas? No, Mom, I can't do that, or
would be
Santa won't
against
bring
it,
it
yeah.
to me. Okay,
Damn.
alrighty.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
That's when you start, like, taking them to, like, mall Santas and then start kind of, like, listening really closely of, like, yeah.
You start guessing their interests based on what they liked last year. It's like you still like Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels are stupid. Ah, fuck.
Thought you might say that.
Yeah, right. Just like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
So,
And you already burned your letter? I did. Okay. Santa's going to get it, right? Yes, Santa will get it. Oh, God.
Santa had a mix-up at the post office, and he needs you to write a new letter.
Yeah, Santa got all the chimneys were put together at once. It was
It's a mess. It's a
the
whole...
post office that receives the burned letters. The ashes.
But yeah, so she's like...
So she sets it on fire, yes.
Yeah, she
Yes,
sets
and
it
we're
on
like,
fire.
oh, this is a cute little, like, she's making up this little thing, like, for this kid, and it's like,
And then here is
Really
where,
sweet.
for me, like,
Worlds
this movie
collide.
went from being like, all right, this is interesting, to being like, I love this movie. Because this is the point where we see a person dressed as Santa wearing a gas mask.
Yeah.
And, my first thought when I saw this fella was like, oh, okay, I guess there's like, in this post-apocalyptic world, some sadistic creep who's like dressed like Santa and is just like going around wreaking havoc and stuff. And then he pulls out this like scroll, this like piece of parchment.
Yeah.
And then this is the point where like my jaw dropped
Unrolls the
and
scroll.
like I like jumped for joy.
Yeah,
Because
right.
we see very clearly like magically it says Riley's name
Yeah.
on this list, indicating that this is in fact
It's Santa.
the real
Like, holy
Santa
shit.
Claus.
It's the real Santa, and
Nick.
the mom either knew that
Yeah,
Santa
right.
exists and is still here, or she was just like, well, let me do this thing to make my kid happy before I kill him and myself. But then it actually summons
But crazy enough,
Santa.
like Santa. Yeah, it's Santa.
Which I think it's probably much more of the like, well, I might as well just do these old Christmas traditions.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. So I guess like his wish is on the scroll, and that scroll Santa is now, like locked into his position more or less, and it's like, well, I've been called, time to go.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's going to deliver the gift or,
So
I think it becomes pretty evident what he's going there to do.
Well, right, but I mean initially.
Yeah, I think this is my interpretation of it. And again, we have the great pleasure of being able to literally ask the person who wrote it.
Yeah.
Right.
But my interpretation is that like Santa, like in this
Santa also
hell
wants to kill
space.
himself.
Yeah, Santa wants to die. This sucks.
Yeah.
Like there's no no joy left in Christmas anymore, or living for that matter. And so
Yeah,
Santa
like he finds like decrepit teddy bears and stuff.
I think that Santa is being kept alive in the same sense that like many Christmas things do. Like all you have to do is believe,
Right.
And then because all like the Christmas specials
but
where
these-
it's like,
these are just,
oh,
like,
I'm
the
losing my
hospital-
Christmas
Right.
magic.
Right.
It's because you don't believe.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my take on
But
it.
the
Is
spirit
that
of
like
Christmas
he's
keeping
like
Santa alive now is like
Yeah,
the hospital tubes to his vegetable body.
Why is he-
And he's just
Exactly.
like,
Why does he
please
have
take
toys
this
then?
out. Please take this out.
What explains his sack of toys then?
because he's Santa Claus.
That's all he knows. Yeah,
That's all he knows.
it's the
Cling to
burden
what's
he
familiar.
carries.
So,
A sack.
Yeah,
of-
so Santa's
of
being kept
post-apocalyptic
alive
toys.
by this kid believing in him, and he's like, God, let this end. And so he's gonna hunt down this kid and kill him so he can get his sweet, sweet relief
Yes.
of death.
and so meanwhile, Mom and kiddo finish up their Christmas festivities.
Yeah, they're making Christmas spam with pineapple.
Yes, Christmas spam with pineapple juice and some pineapple chunks.
And we get plenty of shots of Santa trekking through the world.
and plenty of
Yeah.
shots of that damn creepy pan with food cooking in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she's like, all right, honey, like, tomorrow's Christmas. We got to go to bed early so Santa can get here. And he's like, yeah.
But I hope you saved room for dessert in the meantime.
Yes. She, like, pulls out the cookies.
And she's like, you eat
The
these.
poison cookies.
And then she goes around the corner and is like, oh, God.
I've killed
I
my
can't
son.
even watch to
My
make sure my
baby.
son ate these.
My
Yeah.
baby. Yeah.
That was,
True.
she was a good actor.
No, she was great. Yeah.
Like, especially that part, I was like, damn, I can feel
Mm-hmm.
that. She stands, like, kind of around the corner while this kid's presumably eating the cookies. And she goes back and, like, we get a shot of the kid and, like, half the plate, and it looks like the plate's empty.
Yes.
Yep.
Right? And then they go to bed, right? And she's
Yes.
like, he's not going to wake up. And
Mm-hmm.
And then we get like a fever dream flashback scene of
Yes.
like a photo
Oh,
shoot
yeah.
for Christmas and
Christmas
itchy
time.
sweaters
Christmas time.
and like a Sears like photo studio type
And the dad's
person.
being a dick.
The dad doesn't want to be doing this thing. He's
Yeah.
like,
I
"Come on,
hate
let's get this
Christmas."
photo over with."
And honestly, for that matter, Riley's also not into it.
Yeah, well, the kid doesn't
And,
like the sweater. He doesn't want to sit
yeah.
still. And the mom's trying to pull them both together and like, let's just get this photo out of the way, and then we can go home and forget about all of this, and we'll have
Feels
a
like
wonderful
Christmas
photo.
to me.
And then the wounded girl shows up, and I don't know if it's supposed to be the same character or if it's just the same actress. I don't know.
I
Yeah.
feel like it was the same character.
Also, like, I
That
don't
was
know
my
how based in
premonition.
reality this is, or
Yeah.
if this is just all like
just
a
a rough
dream.
amalgamation.
Yeah.
Of all
That was
the
my
faces
imagination that
seen.
she's the same character.
Yeah.
That's what I pre-noted.
They take some pictures.
Well, she takes the photos and she's like, "All right, like that's good. Let's get out of here." But then like the husband and the son are like gone, and then it's just like the photo lady
Mhm.
coming back to her, and it's like, "Oh yeah, this photo is great," and like hands it to her, and it's like all skeletons in the same
Well,
pose.
first it just shows a shot of like the photo room, and it's this like this back room, and like the ominous red
Oh,
glow
yeah,
is coming
yeah, it looks
out,
like
and
the
it's just,
bunker
like,
door, right,
sound, and
It
she's
looks
like,
the bunker
"Oh."
door with like a red light coming from it. 'Cause I guess
She's
it's
like,
the dark
miss,
room.
what are you doing back there?
Yeah, 'cause she's like, that's weirdly creepy. I don't remember this.
Yeah.
And then she gets the photo, and it's all the skeletons
Mhm.
in the same pose as the family.
She's like, oh fuck.
Yeah, and it flashes back, and then it like shows the frame cuts back to the photo lady, and she's like full blood, full like wounded girl type look,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like telling her like, "Oh, it makes a great photo," and then like starts taking photos of her again, and it's all very concerning and very scary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she wakes up from her fever dream nightmare thing.
Yeah.
And
to
kid-
her son being like, "Hey, Ma, Santa's
Well,
here."
first she notices that he's not in the bed, and she's
Yeah,
like,
right.
"That's weird. You should be dead."
yeah, right.
Yeah, and then she looks up and is like, "Oh, Santa's here."
Hey,
Mom,
Santa.
Santa's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, get away from my child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, first she's just like kind of in shock.
Yeah,
She's just
She's
like,
like, you know, at this
so
point,
Santa.
I'm fucking sorry. Yeah, and then he takes off the gas mask, and you see like the I don't know, green glowy type cracks in his
seaweed,
face.
tattoos,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
cracks.
and
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh,
So
oh, okay."
that's what's going on. Also, he's
Alright.
got like half a mustache. He's not looking good.
Yeah,
and
it's
she's
like,
like,
oh, you know
"Okay, son, that I was trying to kill, get away from this man, lest something dangerous happens
Away
to
from
you."
Santa.
And then as he's like kind of inching his way away, I guess, Santa just full on grabs him by the throat
Yeah,
and says, which in my opinion bolsters my theory, where he goes, "Just let me die."
yeah, yeah.
And then he starts strangling this kid. And I think in the kerfuffle of him grabbing Riley to strangle him, he like pushes Kelly, who then conks her head on the
Yeah,
wall, like
and
the
it's, like, stays.
concrete wall,
Yeah.
very hard.
Yeah.
And
Big conk.
yeah, and starts bleeding profusely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then she's unable to save Riley from Santa, and Santa's just strangling the kid to
And
death.
the kid really sells it.
Yeah, he's like,
In a manner of speaking, yeah.
and his feet are, his little footies are dangling. He's like,
Oh Christ! Yeah. So God bless this kid for giving his all to the go full Bart Simpson on the thing, and you know,
And yeah, and Kelly like is like crawling her way over.
she's trying. She really conked.
But yeah, but she's having no luck. And
Santa is successful.
yeah, Riley breathes his last breath and dies.
Jesus Christ.
And then Santa breathes his last breath, which has a green, stanky like quality to it.
Yeah.
And then he turns to like
Porcelain?
Yeah, like
Or some
porcelain,
shit?
and then falls backwards and shatters. And then
I have questions about that part.
we see
Oh, yeah, fair.
that within the shattered debris of what once was Santa Claus, we see a couple of the like the weed killer poison diamonds.
Yeah, it looks
Santa
like
was
them
doing
exactly.
weed.
Yeah.
And so then Kelly holds her dead son and mourns the loss that she has faced on this faithful Christmas day. And see.
Yeah. It's
Okay,
over.
so the part that confuses me, maybe not confuse me, it might be left open-ended on purpose, but one, when it zooms out, there's still 3 cookies left on the plate, I think.
Yeah, and it
Yes.
says for Santa from
It says
Riley.
for Santa.
Yes.
So I don't know if, did Santa eat any cookies?
It was not shown. I think that is
Who knows?
what's implied. I think though, because I kind of looked at that as well. I'd have to get another look at it to say for sure. It looked to me like one of the
one
cookies was
bite.
like half eaten.
Right,
Because, was
right.
he killed by the cookies, or was he killed by the last kid that believed in him died?
That's a good question.
And also, why does he turn to clay and shatter?
No idea.
Magic.
Magic. That's how magic
Is it
people
like-
die.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't so confused by that because I mean, I don't know. It's just like
think it's
Santa
cool.
himself is just a magical being, and I imagine magical beings that are hundreds of years
And it makes
old.
sense,
You see
yeah.
plenty of things where it's like person who has been living eternally because of some magic thing, and then that
Okay.
goes away, and they like wither to
Yeah.
dust.
I mean, it makes sense with, that's why his face was, starting to crack.
Uh huh.
Because, there was one kid left that believed in him. So he was, dying.
Which yeah, I could be completely wrong about that, but that's which again I very well have the intention of asking Mike
Yeah.
what his intention was, but that's
Yeah.
my thought. Because I guess then my alternate theory, if that is not the case, and given that he did eat like half the cookie,
Did he?
I mean that's my assumption. If
Okay.
a cookie is half eaten and when he crumbled
Oh, I
to
just-
bits,
I just didn't
he
catch
had
that
like
it was
the
half eaten.
weed things in his
That's true.
dust
that
pile.
was- Yeah. In his dust pile.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I guess
He-
my
he
alternate
himself.
theory is that perhaps he was actually there to just deliver Christmas joy and ate half this cookie and was like, "Oh my God, I'm dying."
Right.
Why would
And,
he strangle a kid, though?
And strangles
know.
a kid.
He's like, "You poisoned me."
Have you ever eaten
Fair.
weed killer before? It does weird things.
Yeah.
True. So, yeah, Santa falls, dies, and his head explodes. And then... Is that
Yeah,
the
I'm pretty
last
sure
scene?
it ends there
Yeah,
with
mother
her just
mourns the death of
crying
her child.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at
over
least there's
the-
some cookies left for her to eat.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm kind of looking at the box right here, along with the special features, because we watched most of the documentary.
Right.
There's also like 2 different audio commentary things. One of them is with the director, and the executive producer, who's a different guy, and then there's another one that is with. I think it's the person who plays the mother.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Mother.
And somebody else.
What's the name?
Well, it says audio commentary with stars Hope Bickle and Reeve Blasi.
Reeve is the
that's
kid.
the kid. Yeah.
Isn't it like Mike
and then
Roach?
featuring Reeve's mom, Pam Blasi.
All right.
What was
I
that?
don't know.
It's like Mike Roach, right?
Nice try, buddy. But yeah, I'm very again. I really enjoyed this. I actually probably will, before we schedule this interview, watch it 1 or 2 more times with the audio commentary, because I'm very interested in that.
For
Yeah,
sure.
that's probably for the best.
And we have favorite parts, favorite scenes.
I don't know. I was not as
favorite
taken by
aspects?
the acting.
Yeah.
So if anything, the best scene for me. Well, no, I mean, I guess there's not really like any. If there were to be any, it'd probably be the photo studio scene, like Fever Dream. That was pretty cool.
That's
That was a
interesting,
good
because
one.
that was kind of the part that didn't do it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I
Personally.
think that was cool enough.
I thought that part was
Yeah,
cool.
interesting enough. I still don't think it hit all the buttons that it was intending to. I don't think it landed as well for me as it probably was intended to.
Yeah.
But that's just personal taste, frankly. So what you gonna do.
Yeah.
So I wasn't quite so taken with a lot of the specific delivery of the story beats. Like for a lot of it, it felt, I guess, a bit heavy-handed, I suppose, and not in a way that connected with me, but in a way that felt very, I guess, what would you say?
Scrupulous?
No, maybe obvious. It felt like if I were to sit down and write scenes, it's like I want to convey this type of feeling and be like, what's like the environment? Oh, like this. Like, oh, what's the setting? Oh, like this. And I'd be like, okay, well, the thing that comes to mind instantly would be this. And then a lot of it turned out to be pretty much along those lines.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not in terms of story beats. Like the story beats are novel enough, but I think a lot of the atmospheric kind of setting scenes, like especially in the photo shoot scene, it's a lot of stuff that if I were to design it without thinking too hard, it'd be a lot of that. The imagery that came up there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which I mean, we kind of touched on this a little bit before we started recording, but I think something that I would keep in mind is that, to my understanding, Mike Lombardo did a good chunk of like the production behind
of
this.
course. Yeah.
Being
That's
the
crazy.
writing, the directing,
Yeah.
and the editing.
That's
And
wild.
even from doing just like any video content, all of that is a lot.
Yeah.
It is very time consuming and just very involved. And I think if I were to ever write a feature film, which I don't know if I ever will, because
Right.
it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But just from an outside perspective looking in, I kind of imagine that if I were to do that, I would kind of be, as I write a story, because I mean, I think even actually to some extent when I am doing like video content, while I'm writing a script or something, I'm also thinking about like editing and stuff, like little bits that I'm going to do as I write it.
Right.
And so with that, I would kind of imagine that as you're writing a script for something like this, there might be some things that you want to do with your story, and maybe, I don't know, keep it kind of vague. There might be some things that you might want to do with your story, but then when you kind of think of how you would practically do that, you're pretty limited by your budget and what you could feasibly accomplish with your friends and family, like putting things together. And
Totally.
so I think that's something to keep in mind as well.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm cognizant of that, and I'm considerate of that fact. Like I do agree with your assessment there.
I don't know if I have one favorite scene,
Mm-hmm.
but I liked the emotion evoked when kind of the build up to mom getting ready to kill
Mm-hmm.
what's his face, Riley,
Mm-hmm.
and like the suspense.
Good old what's his face,
What's
Riley.
his face, the kid,
The
getting ready to
suspense of,
kill
like,
the kid.
Just like I had this feeling that like he would die and then Santa would show up like, hey, I have tons of food. I'd be like, oh fuck.
yeah, right.
And just like her watching her go through making that decision was interesting and evocative.
I think I have maybe 2 favorite scenes, and for very different reasons. The first one is probably that bit that I talked about with like the hallway, where she like kind of has like a vision of
right.
Riley. And honestly, not even so much the part where she sees Riley, but like that bit where she's like just like eerily like combing through like this home or whatever building that she's in. And specifically the shot of like her when the camera is down the hall and she kind of rounds the corner and you see her in this like in this doorway. Something about that shot for whatever reason really did it for me. Like that was one of the bits where it was like it didn't feel like I was watching an independent film per se, and it felt like it's like an older horror movie that I might watch.
I feel similarly about when Riley actually shows up in the hall. Like it feels very horror.
It felt kind of Shining-esque to me.
Right, I see what you're saying.
Which
Yeah.
I like that because I like The Shining a lot.
Right.
So I really like that. That was probably my favorite scene for like the merit of like this is an artful film and I enjoy it. And then elsewise, just again that reveal that it's Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I can't understate how excited I was because I did not expect that. At all.
Neither did I, but yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I fully thought that like the only Christmas that this one involved, after the first like 20 minutes, I was like, okay, I think the only Christmas thing is that in the beginning it was Christmas,
Yeah.
and
Right.
now it's
that time.
and
of
now
year
it's the
again.
apocalypse, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it was very exciting to see the man himself,
The
Mr.
man, the
Christmas.
myth, the legend.
Mr. Christmas.
Howdy, Claus.
Do you want to read some reviews?
Yeah. All right. So these are people who have no stake in being diplomatic at all because they're not interviewing and doing a podcast and may just be cynical people. So here's where we're at.
Okay.
This is... and I should be clear. The reviews here are split 2 ways. It is, I think, a probably fair assessment that it is either people sympathetic to the independent, low-budget nature of it and either know people involved in the production or just have an affinity and a space in their hearts to care for the independent. And so it's high reviews there, and then it's low reviews from people who have no concern for any of those things and just did not like the movie. There is no middle ground here. And so that's pretty much the 2 that make up this camp.
So people who understand art and those who do not.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Some
it seems to be somewhat reflective of the thoughts here too. It seems.
Oh yeah, I would agree. I mean, like, well, look, I'm of 2
I mean,
minds.
with you, yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily.
These
one or
2
the
probably encapsulate my entire emotional spectrum on this film. So these are the 2 halves of my brain arguing as I go on this podcast.
Okay.
All right. 8 out of 10, better than expected. Wasn't expecting a well-done film, but good camera work. Acting was good. Sets were well done. I probably disagree with the acting thing. But good camera work and sets were well done. Just a tad slow for me. Good surprise about 3/4 of the way through.
I wonder what that was.
All in all, well done. I can say it's a low A or top of the B's for some. I rated it high just to bring up the average and get a few more folks to watch it and see for themselves. And then, 2 out of 10. I should have known from the title. The title seemed like something out of the Trauma catalog, but I'm a fan of end-of-the-world movies and liked the barren setting, so I gave it a chance. Didn't even mind the complete lack of explanation about what happened. Just a hint would have been nice, but instead I got... well, I don't know what I got. It is very short, though, and it's still an hour and 11 minutes. I would probably want back on my deathbed. And the bunch of rave reviews that propped the star rating over 2 have to have been from a very loyal crew and family members. And so that's, I think that's probably...
It's a biting assumption.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm reading these reviews, and it certainly seems accurate. With my caveat that, like, the other half is people who understand and care about independent art and are about that.
Artiste.
But yeah, there are some really brutal reviews here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it compare to like? Because I feel like even when we looked
Because
at
seriously,
reviews,
it is like 1 star or 10 or 9s. It is like 1 or 2s or 10 or 9s.
what's the distribution? Is it half and half? Is it mostly bad? Because I feel like even when we looked,
I know
at
the
reviews for-
overall IMDb is like 4.5 ish.
Right.
Okay.
So
So
it's
probably
like
about
50-50.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. We got 6, 4, 1, 1, 7, 8, 2, 1 9 9 1 1
Oh.
Mike's giving our coordinates right now.
10
Right.
8
Uh-huh.
7 8
Uh-huh.
9
Can you repeat that last one?
1 But like every 1-star review is like, I do not believe the good reviews. Like I do not believe the good reviews. There's no way these good reviews are real. Like it's really fucking hey, dude. Oh,
I mean,
God.
again, I enjoyed it.
This is
person
better than
says
any.
This is the movie 10 Cloverfield Lane wishes it could be.
Oh hell yeah! This is better than any movie I've watched with you guys
Yeah.
besides Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Considering we watched Jaws 3 and something else terrible.
In the words of the director of this film, when he signed my Blu-ray copy, Merry Doomsday.
In the words of Santa, let there be light. And keep Christ in Christmas.
Keep Christ in Christmas.
You heard it here first,
heard it
folks.
here, people. You goddamn. Yeah.
Anything
And you
else?
don't have to rearrange much to make Santa into Satan. Anyway, go on.
Anything else
facts.
review-wise you want to talk about or no?
No, I don't know. Yeah, it didn't really. No, that's not even accurate. I would say it didn't really do it for me, but I mean, like, yeah, but that's not indicative of the quality of the film, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so weird because it's so skewed for me, I guess. There are certain parts of it that are surprisingly high quality, but then other parts of it that are not good. Like, they just didn't do it for me, or and I feel confident saying are probably not very good, I guess, is where I stand on that. But it's like some essential parts, acting and writing are some essential parts to the quality of a movie. And, if it looks pretty and, and the atmosphere's set right, but the things that people are saying and the way they're saying them are just jarring in terms of my own personal, the movie fails for me on that level. And so that's pretty essential stuff.
Well, I will say
But I don't think the movie looked bad, so.
Yeah, no, I would have to agree with you on that. I think it shot very, very well.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say, particularly about the acting, is that as far as I can remember, I don't think I have ever actually watched an independent film before prior to this.
Right.
So when I, bought some movies at a horror convention and was told these are independent movies that, me and my friends made,
Right.
my expectation was not high quality
Yeah,
acting.
of course, yeah.
So maybe in that regard, like my expectations were surpassed.
Right.
Because sure, there's like certain like lines like as they're delivered where I'm like, all right, like
Yeah.
you're an actor reading a thing. But that's also, again, I guess some context and bias is even with blockbuster movies, that's the one thing I find I have problems with in like every movie. I'm like, this feels like an actor reading a script to me. This doesn't sound like a natural conversation. So I don't know. Maybe I just had really low expectations as far as like acting goes. But whether or not that is the case, I was like not like, this is offensively
I thought the mom was a good actor. I liked her acting. Kid was kid,
Yeah, the kid was a kid.
It was a kid.
Well, yeah. Look, that's I would be inclined to disagree, but I can't make any statement on it as fact. Like if it conveyed and immersed you in the film, then it worked on that level for you. And it just didn't work on that level for me because I just couldn't get into it because it didn't feel it. It didn't touch me. I wasn't buying it.
Well, listeners,
So what you gonna do?
I think it's about time that we give our ratings. But
yes.
also, let's all just keep Mike in our thoughts tonight because he's clearly going to be visited by the three ghosts of independent film tonight, and he's going to learn.
I really don't think I was super critical.
No, you weren't.
I can't be
No.
dishonest.
No. I mean, I'm sure that anybody who makes art would want honest.
Well,
reviews.
look, I would say I was critical, but I'm not. I don't think I'm mean about it.
No, I didn't mean to
you know?
suggest that at all.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny to call you a Scrooge because it's the
Yeah.
holiday season.
Oh well, look. I mean, like, God forbid anybody decides to find anything I've put out on this earth as art and like tell me what they think about it.
Yeah, because it's like
they'll be
really not that great.
Yeah, they'll be like, dude, this is garbage, and I'll be like, yeah, okay, look,
What, Coca?
look, I'm just doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Get off my back, buddy.
Coca's the best
No,
band on
certainly.
the
No, I
planet.
think that what you said is all been. I mean, fuck, I'm not the guy who made it. I can't say, he can tell you himself.
Right.
What are you
No,
asking me for?
I think there's nothing wrong with giving honest criticism, and if not, then that sucks.
Like
I
Abraham
don't know.
Lincoln always said, honesty is the best policy.
Honesty is the best policy.
Well,
I like to
That's
think
it.
there's just like an unpassed law draft that like Lincoln put forth to Congress that just says like honesty, like Bill 50, honesty. They're like, Abraham, what the fuck
Yay.
is this? And he's like, honesty is the best policy.
yeah.
Anyway,
All
Honesty.
right. Well, again, as I kind of just stated, this is the first time I've watched an independent film, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I kind of knew I was going to enjoy this to some extent, regardless of what the quality of the film itself would be, again, just because the context in which this film came to my attention. I'm a sucker for these kind of things where I'm introduced to things that people are passionate about. I think that's really cool, and I love being able to have a good story behind something that I enjoy. So I think that this film will probably lead me to watch more independent films. I would like to see more that Real Splatter has done, which we will certainly be doing with Straight Edge Kegger at some point.
Not
Who
a
sees
minor
when that
threat.
hits the
it's
schedule?
not just a minor threat. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, with all that being said, I think this gets a out of. And this was a pleasant experience for me.
Yeah, it's fair. And I'll flesh that out a bit here. You know, I like the premise of the film. I don't dislike post-apocalyptic stories.
Mm-hmm.
Fallout is one of my favorite game franchises of all time.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, you know, I'm a big post-apocalyptic kind of fella. So I like the premise stuff there. I liked the look of it. On the whole, I think execution did leave some stuff to be desired for me in terms of fulfillment of the vision. But, you know, I have infinite respect for people who do stuff because they have to make things. You know, like, I think I think there's a humanity. Anyway, I could give a whole treatise on why I think making art is cool. Anyway, all of those factors are coming into my score here, which is gonna, you know, bring the average to what it will, you know. But that's how it goes around these parts. So I'm gonna have to give it a out of. And you know, it's hard for me to say that. You know, it's difficult. I don't know if I'm going to feel that way about it tomorrow, or if I'll feel about it that way again 2 days from
Like
now.
the next
or
day.
yeah, exactly.
Like
You
the
know,
day
it'll
after that.
fluctuate.
Yeah.
But that's how I'm feeling right now, just in my honesty bone. And as Abraham Lincoln said,
Honesty bones are the best policy bones.
honesty bones.
honest to bone.
honest bones.
I think how I'll feel about this film today, the next day, and the day after that is I liked it. And I had a good time. I liked that it was a little shorter. I tend to get bored during movies.
It's true. It's true.
So I like the length. And everything else I said I already liked about it, I still like now. So with that, I give it a...
Consistency.
I'm sorry, Mike, I was talking.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that.
I give it at... Out. And that's what I give it.
I gotta do that sometimes.
Yeah, phenomenal as always, Evan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is not the only movie that Mike Lombardo has written or directed, to the best of my knowledge.
True.
What are the others?
We have
Black Doomsday.
I don't know about that. At the very least, from the back of this cover, we have a movie called The Stall, and then another movie called Long Pig. I don't know about you, whether it's for the podcast or not. I'd be very interested in checking out some of his other work.
Yeah, I don't know what he's working on, frankly.
Yeah, which it might be interesting as
And how he
for
feels
you
about this.
particularly as well, because again, Evan and I kind of felt a little bit more positively about this. It would be interesting to see what your thoughts on some other work of his is, and ours as well. But
Could
to
be.
see if it is the type of thing where you just are not a fan of his
Of his
writing
work.
or editing style,
Yeah.
or if it really is just that this specific one didn't quite hit the right knots for you.
Yeah.
Yes, but all the same, thank you for listening this far.
Let me go to bed.
And this should be followed up very shortly, hopefully, by an interview
Let
with
me
Mr.
sleep.
Mike Lombardo himself.
Woo.
And hopefully this was a pleasant experience for everybody involved.
I have to survive the ride home.
And Merry Christmas, Merry Doomsday, and have a happy holiday.
I have a holly oh, wait, no. Chestnuts.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for watching today's episode, as well as checking out this interview. Today, we have Mr. Mike Lombardo, who was the writer, director, and editor for this film, among many other things, really. And this will be a really interesting interview. If you've listened to the episode up to this point, then you will know that my co-host Mike and I have kind of divided opinions on this movie.
That's understandable.
And first off, Mike, just thank you so much for being here with me and taking the time to have this interview. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but like I said, you directed, you wrote and edited, and you did some other stuff too, right?
Did special effects and props and all sorts of stuff. Yep.
Yeah, a real jack of all trades. So if it's okay, I have a list of questions that we'll go through. And but before we do that, I just wanted to ask you, is there anything that you would just like to get out there beforehand? Anything you'd like to talk about specifically?
No, just thanks for watching the movie. You guys are out there fans of post-apocalyptic Christmas horror, which is a very large subgenre. Definitely check it out. Dreaming of a White Doomsday.
Yeah, it really does seem to be like a really prevalent subgenre, which honestly, before seeing this and looking into it, I would have never really guessed. But regular listeners might notice that we're down a voice, and that's because my co-host Mike unfortunately couldn't make it with the scheduling of this. We had to do it at a very specific time so that we were able to get this out in time. And unfortunately, Mike was going to kind of be the one giving a little more criticism. But
That's fine, man. I'm totally good getting grilled either way.
well, that's good to hear then. So I watched the movie, of course, with Mike, and we did our episode. And then I watched the behind-the-scenes documentary. We watched that together as well. But then I watched it twice on my own with the commentaries. And that provided a lot of insight.
Okay.
And one of the things that you had mentioned was that this is kind of like a tonal shift for you. So you would say that this is kind of like a departure tone-wise from anything you've done before.
Yes, this is definitely the polar opposite of all of the short films that I've done.
What would you say kind of is more your normal then, if it's not this?
So my company's Real Splatter Productions. Our tagline was "Putting the laughter back in slaughter" was the tagline the last 10 years. So we would do like, I don't want to necessarily say trauma-esque stuff because it's not quite as, for lack of a better term, played as sleazy as that. And I'm saying that in an affectionate light. I love trauma growing up. But it was, they were like splatter comedies. It was never, they were usually very satire-based, real weird, like just real bizarre sort of stuff, very gory. But it was not, they were personal for me, but they weren't serious. Doomsday was kind of the culmination of just all of the personal events in my life and everything. It was basically the projects I always wanted to do. I just didn't have the technical ability or the confidence in myself and my abilities to do something serious. So I kind of would hide in comedy and gore because it was, it's easier to put yourself out there that way. But like our movie, The Stall, is about a guy trapped in a public bathroom during the Lovecraftian apocalypse.
Oh,
and that's actually
that sounds great.
More serious than you would think it is. And actually the making of that is the subject of the Brilliant Terror documentary that, as of this interview right now, is actually screening at another Hole in the Head Film Festival and the New York City Horror Film Festival. But they filmed the whole process of that, and I was in it. That's kind of touches on all of the horrible events that were going on in my life that kind of turned into White Doomsday.
Okay, yeah, that kind of makes some more sense to me. So again, for a little bit of context for everybody, I met Mike, Mr. Lombardo, that is, at the New Jersey Horror Con in Atlantic City. And based on the other film that he sold me, that was kind of more my impression going into this. of course, the other movie that you sold me was Straight Edge Kegger, which my friends and I are a bunch of punks. We live in like a Discord house-esque kind of thing. At least I don't now. I just moved out. But, like a straight edge, do-it-yourself independent record label kind of stuff. So that stuff was like...
I think you were going to enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm so excited to watch it. I really am. Is there anything that you can tell us about that as well, maybe?
So Straight Edge Kegger is not my film. That was...
okay.
That was definitely not me. That was just Scream Team Releasing is our distributor.
Wait, I think I understand what you mean now. I
actually had nothing to do with Straight Edge Kegger, but it's a lot of fun. It's a very good movie. I just did not direct it or write it.
So, I think I kind of get the idea of it now. But so can you kind of explain the difference between like Scream Team and Real Splatter? Because obviously they're two different things, like you said.
So Real Splatter was the film company that I started back when I was in high school many, many eons ago. So that was just kind of the umbrella of all of my creative projects. And that started on VHS cameras, like going way back to all sorts of ridiculous short films. And then as I got older, we started to get more serious about the filmmaking stuff. So probably our most popular short is Womb for Two, which is a sitcom parody about a 16-year-old fetus that lives inside of his mom's womb. That's something that actually we were developing as an animated series, me and the co-creator, Scott Shaw, and pitching to Adult Swim, because it would have a great life on there. To give you an idea of the kind of humor that is in there. We did one of our other popular shorts was Skylar Phalange's Zombie Hunter, which is this really stupid satire of stylized action movie zombie shit. So all that stuff was all short films, like I said, just like short, goofy, like gory comedy, kind of like think like early Peter Jackson, mixed with some Trauma and John Waters. Like we kind of veered towards the offensive, gross out humor, that kind of stuff. And obviously as I got more into filmmaking and stuff, I wanted to do a feature, obviously, and then White Doomsday sprung from a short story I had published back in 2012. But I'll get into all that later. Scream Team Releasing is a company run by Justin Seaman, who wrote and directed The Barn, which is a really popular indie horror film. The sequel's coming out soon. He had started his own production company and then eventually became a distributor, and he started picking up indie films. And I met him. I was a co-host on the Horror Syndicate Lives podcast for a while, and we interviewed him about The Barn. And I found out that his poster artist, Mark Schoenbach of Say to Start Designs, actually had done all of the merch and everything for The Barn, and he had done White Doomsday and The Stall. So we started talking about that, and the co-hosts were like, dude, you got to show him Doomsday. I'm like, he's not going to want that, because he was looking for like slasher throwback type stuff, and like more like 80s style things with Doomsday is absolutely not. But he's like, I'd really love to check out the movie. So I sent him a screener, and I think it was something like maybe 12 hours later, I got like a 2-page email back from him, just like gushing about the movie. He's like, I absolutely want to put this out. So ended up, because we had been, when we were on the film festival circuit with Doomsday, we had world premiered at Nightmares Film Festival in Ohio. And after that screening, I already had started getting distribution offers, which I found out 90% of are complete scams, like just the worst deals you could possibly imagine. Yeah, so that just kind of kept coming in. We had a sales agent for a bit, and then Scream Team came, and the terms were really good, and I trusted Justin, and I saw what he was putting out, and I was like, okay, this guy, he knows what's up. Because, like, when you make a movie, when you make a movie when you're trying to get it distributed, is it just an absolute nightmare. Like, the sales agents and the stuff, the first thing they said is, you got to change the title, because people might think it's supposed to be like a racial thing. And it was just completely untrue.
Oh, geez. Yeah, when we were putting it in the player, we were like, we don't know what kind of movie this is.
So there was that. And then, of course, all the studios were like, you have to change the ending. And I'm like, I'm not changing a damn frame of this. I'm not changing that. And I was really particular about the title and the poster art, and that was the deal I had struck with Justin. My first terms in the contract were, you don't touch the title, and I design all of the art and all of the layout, because I have friends that are graphic designers, and I just had this horrible image in my head of walking into Walmart and seeing The Terrible Christmas with like a Photoshop gas mask on the cover with like a Christmas ball reflected in the eye and a zombie hand coming up. And I was like, no, we're definitely not doing that. And half the offers we got, that's exactly what they were going for. I was like, nope, not doing it. So long story short, ended up signing with Scream Team. Did really, really well with them. Love Justin. I love what he's doing. So Justin was kind of like doing like the arrow of indie film. Like he's putting out these like deluxe editions of all these like micro budget indie films and stuff that, you know, they're all playing at festivals, and he's giving like actual terms that a filmmaker would benefit from. Like his whole goal was, because he's a filmmaker too, and he's like, you know, we got screwed in our distribution. So he's kind of like, hey, I want people to actually make money to be able to make more films. And that's just really awesome. He's involved in producing a lot of stuff. So like, I don't have enough good things to say about Justin. Like, I love him. I love his company. I love Zane, one of his partners, just great people all around. If you're an indie filmmaker, definitely check out Scream Team. They're the only not snakes that I got to meet in the distribution world of the 3 years that we had Doomsday. So highly recommended.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As I've kind of like mentioned a bit, me and my friends, we do music independently, and this is kind of my first exposure into the world of independent film. But I see a lot of parallels. Actually, again, like the record label that my co-host and my other former roommate run is an independent label that seems to kind of operate similarly to that. Like they distribute local music, that being my own and others in the area. And yeah, that sounds really similar. So I can really kind of get like a better grasp of what you're talking about here. And so White Doomsday was released in 2017, right?
Yes.
So production must have started in like 2014, I'd say.
Yes.
So it was a pretty long production time. I mean, I'm not really familiar with how long it takes to make a movie, but 3 years is a lot.
Oh yeah, three wonderful years. 3 wonderful years of weekends and sporadic on and off. I tell people that if you watch the behind the scenes documentary Armageddon from the Cheap Seats, it's an excellent tutorial on how not to make a movie.
Well, so speaking of the doc, in that you had said that there were a few times where you had to just kind of like round the crew up and be like, we're filming right now. You have to get over here.
Yes, that's it was the first time in like 10 years it didn't snow. And I was like, are you kidding me? So like every day it would snow, and it's like on the phone trying to wrangle as many people as possible. Like, come on, let's go. We got to get these exteriors done now.
Was filming in general kind of more sporadic, or was it like scheduled out most of the time?
It was definitely scheduled. There was a lot more structure to it than I'm giving myself credit for. It was just a matter of trying to get locations, because all of the abandoned exteriors that we did, which we obviously had permits for to go to.
Oh, of course.
So the scheduling for that was really tricky, because we had to go on days when there was not going to be any patrols of the law. So we had to sneak in places while it was snowing. The most horrible of which was all of the ruins that Santa is walking through when we first see him. That was literally negative 12 degrees outside with the wind chill. And we went through that, and I think someone kicked over a cup of coffee, and it froze in a 3-dimensional glob. And I was like, "All right, we're done. We're done."
Yeah, that seems like a pretty good stopping point if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, but it was the only way we could shoot the location without being, arrested for trespassing. So those were the most difficult places to do. The bomb shelter stuff, we shot. That was the bulk of the movie. We shot those over weekends. It was just hard because we had, a 7-year-old. Well, he was probably like 27 by the time we finished the movie. He's like 4 kids of his own now, We had to schedule him and then all of the actors and the owners of the house to because they had to leave because, it's like a 150-year-old house. So they're walking, there was their basement. So they're walking around, existing in their own home, the bastards. And we can hear every noise. So we had to kick them out of their own house. So we had to do that. And we were pulling like 14, 15-hour shifts on these shoots. And then all of the portrait studio and the living room stuff that we had Damien Maffei from The Strangers and Haunt and all those movies. But he came down for a weekend. We shot him out in 2 days. So he literally got on a train from Maine, came down. I told him to stop shaving for a month. So we had like this grotesque, he called it his rat beard. We shot all of his apocalypse stuff, drove, and it was like a 15-hour day, drove back to my house. He dry shaved off his beard.
Oof.
And then we shot all the pre-apocalypse stuff in another 12-hour thing. Then he was back on the train going back to his family in Maine. So I was like, I hope to God we got all the footage we need because
Yeah, no
this is all
second
we can afford.
chances.
But that was all shot in my house, so that was a lot easier to schedule because I had control over everything. The downside of that is me and my roommates lived with a portrait studio, a mall portrait studio, and a Christmas living room for 3 years in our house. And then my kitchen became a special effects studio that was just, or slash skeleton warehouse, where I just had all the props just completely covering every available surface. And I was just building shit as I would go. And it was a credit to the patience of my significant other and the people I was living with at the time that I wasn't evicted.
Yeah, again, I know exactly what you mean. Like, but with the record label that my former roommates run, it's whenever like a new release was coming out, it was like the living room area was just like commandeered, and that's like the prepping stage at that point.
Yep.
But you know, that's what you got to do for the love of the art, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
And you know what? Before I forget, I want to ask. In the episode, I guess it was just because I met you in Atlantic City. I just assumed you're from Jersey. That's not right, right? You're not from New Jersey.
No, I am from Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Yep. There we go.
Home of the Amish.
What was that?
Home of the Amish Mafia.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Like I said, we when I was watching the behind the scenes stuff, I thought I had heard you say Lancaster, and I thought, well, that's not New Jersey. We're actually based in Wilmington, Delaware ourselves.
Okay, that's not far at all.
No, not really. It is funny though that you mentioned the Amish country.
It's a concrete jungle here, a real bustling metropolis.
Yeah. Well, see, I have some family that live in that same general area, and so there is a lot of Amish people out there. I remember one time I had to be maybe like 8 or 9. I was riding on the back of my cousin's like dirt bike with him, and we went to the Amish market because there's nothing else to do out there. And so, you know, we're just walking around, and we come back outside, and we see these Amish kids like about our age hop onto his dirt bike and try to steal it, but they didn't know how to start it because they're Amish. So they were just like kind of trying to like walk and pedal away, and of course we caught up to them. But back to White Doomsday, what exactly did like the casting look like for this?
So the casting was interesting because the biggest role to cast was the little boy. I put out a casting call on Facebook, and I had a pretty decent amount of responses to people that had children that, you know, so they would send me, I asked for a picture of the kid. And then as soon as they would send me, I'm like, okay, this could work. So I had to find a kid that was very skinny. And then I would send the family or the parents the short story. And then immediately half of them just dropped off like, nope, not doing this. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's where
and
it
then
falls
the other
apart.
half, I would have them audition. And the thing is, you can't. Well, first I had them send a video of like just a video of their kid doing whatever, because you can't really like audition a child because you can't really necessarily ask them to act. Most of them anyway. So I'd have them come over with their parents, and I just ask them questions about like stuff they were into, just to kind of get a read on their energy levels and like their personalities. Like, are they shy? Are they, you know, running around, you know, suplexing my couch? Like, which. So eventually. I landed on Reeve Blasi, who was actually the son of a good friend of mine, and his middle name is Romero. So I knew he was already super, you know, into horror and stuff. So I was like, okay, that's half the battle right there. His parents also knew me for years; they trusted me, so I didn't have to worry about that. And he had the look and everything. And then I'm like, okay, this is going great. So then, if that part of the audition process worked out well, then I would give him the script and I just have him read a couple lines and see, you know, what their capabilities were. So I gave Reeve the lines, and he did a great job. I'm like, man, this kid's great. And I'm like, all right, now the biggest hurdle of all. And this is, if you have not seen the movie, this is a huge spoiler alert.
Well, if they've listened to the episode this far, it has been very well spoiled at this point.
So it's he gets strangled to death by Santa Claus.
Yep.
And, you know, despite what most people would think about me, I'm actually a very, very sentimental and loving person. So I did not want to ruin Christmas for this 7-year-old. So I was like, so buddy, you know, you're going to die in this movie. He's like, yeah, I know, it's going to be awesome. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to get killed by Santa Claus, but not the real Santa Claus. And he just pauses and looks up at me like I've grown a second head. He's like, duh. Santa's busy making toys. He can't be in your movie. And I was like, 100% correct. You are so right.
Yeah, too
Man,
many
you're
scheduling
smart.
conflicts.
Yeah, so that was like the biggest hurdle off of my chest, or weight off my chest. And then Santa himself, I cast him. He was a friend of mine that I actually met him at a punk rock flea market in Lancaster. We were selling Real Splatter t-shirts, and he bought a shirt and he got a DVD. And then like, he was just a random stranger. Like 6 years later, someone is like, hey, some dude on YouTube's like wearing your shirt. And he had like a cooking show. And I looked at him like, holy shit, this guy is wearing a Real Splatter t-shirt like circa 2006. I'm like, whoa. So I reached out and then we became friends. And, he did a lot of like dinner theater and acting and that kind of stuff. So he came over and he had the look and I was like, all right, cool. And then we cast the mom. She was a recommendation through a friend of mine, my camera guy, actually, Dylan. It was a friend of his that he knew that she worked in local theater and stuff. So she came by and, she had an audition. And what got her the role was I gave her the scene at the end when she attacks, when the kid's being attacked and she jumps on Santa. And I was like, all right, go for it. And she let out this ear-piercing shriek and literally leapt onto my couch and she ripped a hole in my couch, like clawing at it. And I was like, God, it's like, all right, you got the part. Like, that was it. And she was a joy. But the thing is, her hair was like an inch long. It was like bleach blonde, like all the buzzed.
Yeah, I saw that in the doc.
Yeah, so I had to, so she's like, she brought a bag of wigs along with her. So I'm like, all right. And then Damien, who played the dad, I had met him through a Kickstarter for Brian Keene's The Cage. He's a horror author friend of mine who was doing a movie. And Damien was running the Kickstarter. So it didn't end up happening, but I met him through that, and he had been in some other horror stuff, and we became friends. So he came down from Maine to be in the movie, and then right after, and not saying because of Doomsday, but then he got The Strangers Pray at Night. He played the lead killer. Then he got the Wrong Turn remake that just came out, Haunt, a whole bunch of stuff. Not saying because of his role in White Doomsday, but I mean, you do the math.
Take some credit.
So he was great to have in the film. And then the photographer was another friend of a friend that came out that did a lot of local theater. And she played the wounded girl in the house too. So it was, it was kind of just pulling from local sources and stuff. It was a good time. I had a phone book of favors because I've been doing special effects and stuff for people for so many years and helping with local productions that's how we made the movie. Basically, we're just calling in favors from everybody, including the actors.
Yeah, that's how most local art seems to go. You just kind of get enough favors until somebody kind of sticks around more permanently.
Yep.
So your family really helped out a lot behind the scenes and stuff, right?
Yes, absolutely. So my mom is actually the inspiration for the movie. She was in the hospital with stage 4 kidney failure. And I basically wrote the short story about, watching someone you care about fading away and not being able to help them. And that kind of turned into this story. So she recovered, thankfully, but it was real dicey there for a while. But she actually got to work on the movie, and she instilled in me at a very early age just a love of making things and crafts and all that shit. So it was great. We'd go out to antique stores and thrift shops and just find all the props and figure out all the shit. And it was just awesome because growing up, she always tells people that she thought I'd either grow up to be a serial killer or an artist. She didn't know which. So it was really cool for her to get to see the behind the scenes of filmmaking because I'd always been, before that, I was just the pain in the ass that lived in the basement that, got fake blood all over everything. And for her to be able to see the other side of it and get involved, she the bug bit her big time. She loved it. She's like, this is awesome. Creating the illusion of everything. So that was really awesome. And then I had my cousin, she came and helped me do all the sweaters and stuff. It was just, all the portraits in the photography studio are family members and friends and people that worked on the movie. I got baby pictures of them and stuff, embarrassing photos and hung them up. So it was just a very family and friends affair.
Oh, that's really awesome. So feel free to stop me if this is a bit too much. But in the commentary, you mentioned that a lot of the things, to some extent, were kind of reflective of your upbringing. Is that something that we can get into right now?
Okay, so yeah, a lot of it was definitely based on experiences growing up. My first memory of my dad was him in a truck accident that put him in a coma for several months. And when he got out of that, he had brain damage. So he became real verbally and emotionally abusive for a good portion of my life. And my mom was working like 3 jobs. I had 3 brothers, so we were barely scraping by. But no matter how bad things got, we always had Christmas, we always had birthdays, and she would just make it happen with whatever was around. And I wasn't even consciously thinking about that stuff as I wrote the story. It was just, I looked at it after I had written, it was like, oh my God, I literally just wrote a story about growing up. Like, this is what it is. Like, Brian Keene would always tell me, he's like, to write a good story, you bleed on the page. Well, Doomsday hit a fucking artery. It was a really, really raw process. And so much of it for me was just the crux of the story is just, it's the death of innocence. It's that the world doesn't let innocence survive. The older you get, the more you see the universe has teeth, and that, we eventually just become a walking pile of scar tissue. And that's really what makes us as people. And at the time I was writing the story, my mom was in the hospital. I'd just gone through a really, really bad breakup that was from a long-term relationship. Another friend of mine had just died of liver cancer. I had just a lot of really, really bad stuff was going on. I was in a really dark place. And that was kind of the realization, because I was like 23, 24 when I was writing that story. And it was the first time I really just looked at everything and was like, oh my God, this is what it is to grow up. Like, this is literally, the magic is gone. This is what happens. And then I started to come to the conclusion that the magic doesn't leave, the innocence of being a child. It just switches places. It's now our job as adults to give that to the next generation. And I realized how much my mom had protected me and my brothers from the reality of what was going on when we were kids. And that all bled into the story. Like, there's literally a scene where she's putting Christmas garland over the gas masks that are hanging in the thing. And I'm like, it's as visual metaphors go, I mean, that one's pretty much the entirety of the movie right there. And it's just really like, for me, it was what would you do to protect someone you care about? Like, what would you do to give them, to burden that weight? Because that's the position I found myself. My mom was in the hospital. My brothers were in different states. So I was the one who was in the hospital every day when she was in the ICU. And I was the one that had to try to keep morale up. And the doctors would pull me out. And they're like, her kidney function is 2%. Like, you need to start planning for things. And then my brothers would come like, how is she doing? I'm like, it's not that bad. Like, just trying to keep everyone from losing their shit and being a rock, and the toll that takes on you, knowing you have this horrible burden. And that's what I wanted the story to be about. And that is kind of comes into the movie. And the movie, I mean, it unofficially takes place in the 90s. Every piece of set decoration and props, the toys, all that stuff is shit that I had as a kid. And it's all just that time period, which is just a completely personal little touch. But yeah, I mean, you can't not be personal when you're designing this stuff. Like, it just bleeds through unintentionally.
Wow, that's all really heavy, but I think that comes through. And then if you're writing honestly, that stuff just comes through very naturally, I think. But on a much more lighter note, potentially, what's the deal with the pineapple can?
So the scene, that's actually the scene that gets the biggest reaction out of the audience at screenings, is when the mom tries to cut her wrist with a pineapple can lid. Mm-hmm. I was opening a pop top can of pineapples once upon a time, and the key broke off of it. And as I pulled my hand back, the key snapped off, and it just the way the lid snapped back, it split my middle finger down to the bone. Ooh. And I didn't even feel it. I was just like, ow. And then I looked down, and it looked like my sink was full of Kool-Aid, and I realized it was my own blood, and it was squirting across the room. So I started screaming expletives, and my girlfriend at the time, we were watching Eastbound and Down season 2. I'll never forget this. And she was downstairs, we were watching it downstairs. I had gone into the kitchen to get some pineapples. She was upstairs in the bathroom, heard all the, me screaming fuck, and thought it was Kenny Powers from the show. So didn't think anything of it. And then I guess the tone of my voice alerted one of my other roommates. She ran downstairs. She's like, something is wrong, and sees me bleeding through an entire roll of paper towels. And they're like, oh my God, we have to call 911. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. The bleeding stopped. I looked down and saw my bone. And then I started to get lightheaded. Like, we're going to the hospital right now. So 6 stitches later, that turned into a whole thing. So when I was writing the movie, the pineapple can scene came up. It was just a can lid, right? And then I was like, oh man, wouldn't it be hilarious if it was like a pineapple thing? So Julius Brunk, who did all of our graphic design, he created all the cans. the can labels, and he did Escobar's pineapples. And Escobar was from a short story I had written called Weekend at Escobar's, which had started its life as a goofy Weekend at Bernie's parody. That was going to be, it was for an anthology that I was invited to that I ended up blowing the deadline for. But it was about a guy, like a drug dealer. They kill him and they stuff him full of cash, and they're trying to get him across the border by Weekend at Bernie's-ing him. So it was like this really goofball story. And then I started writing it. It turned into this really, really like intense personal meditation about grief and family trauma. You know, believe it or not, somehow that came through. And so this is a little reference to that. He made it Escobar's pineapples. So that was just a little nod. There's 1,000 little in jokes in all the prop design. The biggest one is the weed killer. The mom sprinkles on the cookies. If you look at the label, it says tough on Dorman weed. So Miss Dorman was my Comtech teacher in high school, my video production teacher, and we hated each other. The last thing she said to me when I finished her class was, "You'll never succeed in film." And so after I won my first film festival award for a short film, I was actually invited back to my high school to be a guest speaker. So I brought the award and a copy of the DVD and brought it to her, and she threw the DVD in the trash and shut the door, which was supremely satisfying. So in honor of her, we put tough on Dorman weed in there.
Don't you just love it when educators just so clearly love children?
Oh, 100%. She was just a terrible human being. She actually was fired a few years later just for being a cantankerous monster of a human being. So,
jeez. So there was actually a little bit of debate when we watched it about the intention of some things, some of which I actually found through the documentary that I was right. Like, for example, Santa's motivation for killing Riley being that he had lost his innocence and was ready to die and was being kept alive by, like, the magic and everything. But there was one thing, though, that I was wrong about.
Okay. I think this was coming.
And yeah, so that was that I thought that Santa ate some of the cookies. Like, I did think that he was being kept alive by, like, the magic and everything. But I also thought the cookies had something to do with it, and I was wrong, it seems.
Okay. So Santa did not eat the cookies. That when we did that, because I'm assuming it's because you're the crystal, the glowing embers in his head after a chat. So I have a weird obsession with glowing green stuff. I mean, I'm a child of the 80s, and you know, Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps and all that. So glowing green is just the coolest thing in the world, and it also fit Christmas. So the glowing green embers, I literally, and I swear to God, I never made the connection between that and the sprinkles we had on the cookies, because weed killer is usually green. I didn't even think about it. And if I could go back in time, that's one of the biggest things I would change, because it could so many people. And I look at it like, damn, what a fucking stupid thing to miss. Like, it really is. Like, but yeah, it did not eat the cookies. The idea was in the beginning, I wanted the bookend the movie. So the beginning of the movie opens with the flashback or dream sequence of what their normal Christmas is, and their traditions, where Riley always saves cookies for Santa Claus. That's something we did as kids. So that's where the mom gets the idea to do the weed killer on the cookies, because it's, you know, you put pills and peanut butter to give to your dog, or, you know, spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down better. So it's just, in her head, the most humane way to kill him. Which, side note, if you ate weed killer, you would have a horrible death. A horrible.
Yeah, that was one thing. I'm surprised that we didn't really think about that when we watched it. But yeah, that was one thing in the commentaries with the actors where it was like, yeah, great story. That death, though, pretty terrible.
Yes, and the thought with that is, because there's been a couple people that have brought that up, and I love having that conversation, because they're like, the big things that people gripe about are the ending not making sense to them, which, you know, fair. It's a weird thing. The Santa, the cookies, the weed killer, and the fact that the mom, the apocalypse isn't explained, because the mom takes her mask off at one point. There's that girl without her mask. They're like, I don't understand. Wouldn't that kill her? And she just goes out without like protective gear. And the answer, like, that was the big one. And my answer to what is the apocalypse, I tell people it doesn't matter, because that's not the point of the movie. But there is obvious clues in the movie as to what happened in the portrait studio scene. Like, I thought it was pretty explicit what was going on. But the answer for why would she give her child weed killer, and why would she go outside without protective gear and take her gas mask off? The answer is that she is a suburban mom. She doesn't fucking know. Like, she is just doing the best that she can with what she had in this makeshift bomb shelter that they put together. And everyone's like, well, she would die. I'm like, yes, correct. She dies. That like from frame one of this movie, or as soon as the movie kicks into the bomb shelter, you can tell very clearly this person is not equipped to survive. Spoiler, she does not survive. Like it's not a narrative arc where she's against all odds going to make this work. This is a slow descent into suicidal tendencies and how do I kill my kid? She doesn't know weed killer would do horrible things. It's poison. She tries to shoot him, but the bullets don't fit, which is the other counterpoint. Yeah, that I wanted people to see. It's like I wanted to portray this as realistically, despite the Santa stuff. But how many times do you see a movie where somebody finds ammunition and it doesn't fit in the gun? That never happens. But I'm like, that's
that was something that I really liked. I as you kind of mentioned, I had never seen that before. I mean, I know like next to nothing about like guns and firearms, but like that was a really nice touch, I thought. And also, furthermore, with with Kelly and like the weed killer, and also just not knowing stuff about what's going on in the world as a viewer, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it only makes sense to me. I think that if you are watching a movie from someone's perspective, you should only know as much as they know.
absolutely same.
And yeah, she doesn't know what's going on, so it makes sense that we're kind of left in the dark, you know.
And that's something that I really when I was writing the movie and we were making it, my thought was I wanted this to be. I always said I wanted to be anticlimactic, like or just anti-cinematic, is I think the word I use all the time. Where I wanted this to be like you were watching these people in a fish aquarium, like you just sit and watch in real time all of these decisions that they're doing. Like when she's going through the bag of stuff that she had stolen from that girl. I told the actress, I'm like, you take as long as you need. And if you watch it, you can see the gears turning in her head as she's more and more. She's like, oh my God, I just killed this person for nothing. And like when she finds the gun and I went with no music for that scene. I just wanted the audience to sit and just experience that horrible moment together with her. Because in movies, you get the music cues come up and it tells you how to feel and stuff. And I'm like, when we screened it at the world premiere, people came up to me afterwards. They're like, I have never been more uncomfortable watching a movie before in my life. And it's just so dreadful. But like, I didn't want the music to come up and tell you to be sad because that almost makes it easier. I wanted it to be like, I wanted to show what grief is like, what depression is like. I mean, these are lofty, pretentious things I'm saying here, but you don't see that in movies. And that's what I really wanted that to be. I didn't want to follow normal movie logic. Uh-huh. And like, people are like, oh, what happened to the dad? And I'm like,
you don't even
I don't know. Put two and two together. What do you think happened to the dad? You walked out there and didn't come back, but they're like, well, what happened? And I'm like, well, we're seeing the movie through the mom's eyes. Why? She doesn't know what happened. Yeah, it's like, because then the point of that, and when I was writing it was, there is so few times in your life that you will get closure on anything traumatic. And that's what it is. We don't need a little side story where the dad goes out and gets eaten by something. It's like, who gives a fuck? He's gone.
Yeah, closure can be overrated, I mean, things are going to happen either way.
Exactly. And it just motivates further. She's just giving up hope. The moment when she takes the batteries out of the walkie-talkie, that is her giving up hope. And it's like, all right, now we kick into what is going to, the inevitability of it. That's what the movie is. Inevitability.
I also felt like this movie is just like super real in that her reaction is just so genuine in so many instances. Like one very specific moment that we talked about in the podcast is that when she finds that like decaying body, she's like fucked up. And that's not something that I feel like you see in movies a lot.
Yep.
And I just personally really enjoyed that. It was refreshing.
Thank you. That was something that we had a lot of arguments on set, especially with my DP. He wanted to shoot these big like apocalyptic vistas with like burning buildings and shit. I'm like, that's not what this is. It's just she finds some skeletons. Everything is dead. Everyone is dead. There's nothing exciting going on out here. It's just empty. And it's just dead. And I'm like, if I came across a rotten corpse, then that's which unfortunately, later in my life I have, and it was horrible. It's just like you can't unsee that shit, and it's just terrible. Especially this woman who's lived this entire time, whatever happened, the bombs that dropped, whatever, she's been in this shelter ever since. The dad is going out and foraging. He knows what's out there. She doesn't. And it's just by sheer determination and love for her kid that she's even able to get through enough to try to find something out there and deal with the reality of it.
So I'm reaching the end of my list of questions here, but is there anything, and you can answer with both things that you've worked on, as well as things that you haven't worked on. Are there things that you would recommend people go check out if they watched White Doomsday and absolutely loved it?
I would say The Stall is probably The Stall is still kind of funny, but it was the thing we did right before that. My Friend Lawrence is a really, really fucking weird short, actually a star in that too. That's like a David Lynch kind of Cronenberg mix. It's really short and it's really, really abstract and weird. But you can kind of see some of my little weird obsessions with colored lights and especially The Stall, like the green lighting and the fog and all that kind of stuff. Like you can definitely see that. I mean, the old stuff that I did is fun and gory and weird. Santa Claus pops up in everything. Like Santa, zombie Santa, like just he is always gas mask Santa has been an image I've had in my head for years and years and years and years. I mean, our logo for the film company is that gas mask. I mean, that's why it's in there. But as far as like inspirations on like the movie itself, there was a novel called On the Beach by Neville Shute that was written in the 50s. That is probably the greatest post-apocalyptic novel of all time. It's about a small town in Australia. After World War III, essentially everyone nukes each other. And Australia is the only country that is still left alive. So the radiation is coming on the wind. And they know that they have this small town. They know that it'll hit them in about, I think, 2 months. So it's what this like group of people in this town do with the last 2 months of their life, knowing they're all going to die. And it is just the most miserable, bleak, awful thing ever. It fucked me up for months after I read this. But it's so stark and realistic. Metro 2033, which is a beautiful game series, but it was based on a series of Russian novels that were excellent. And that playing through the original Metro 2033, I got to see like a low-key apocalypse in action. And I'm like, oh my God, this actually works. Like you see the big, broad, like giant vistas of apocalyptic stuff. But for the most part, the story is very human and personal. And you just kind of see this makeshift world that they're living in. And that was always my intent, but I didn't think it would work like visually. And I was like, with no money. And I was like, holy shit, I can actually pull this off. Like, this is pretty much what I wanted to do. Resident Evil 2, the game, a lot of gas masks and green lights and all that kind of shit. That was a huge influence on me as a kid. And just skeletons and it's all this stuff. Like if you know me in person and you watch Doomsday, it is so me. And that sounds like kind of a douchey thing to say, but there is so much of me in that movie that it's just insane. It's the culmination of all of my weird interests and obsessions and Christmas and the sentimentality of it all and just twisting innocence into something dark and horrible and everything. So there wasn't like any one particular, like, I'm going to ape this. Like, this is what I want to do. It was never like that. It was more just like an accumulation of stuff. And ironically, as soon as we were about 3/4 of the way through the filming, 10 Cloverfield Lane came out. And I was like, oh, shit. So I went to go see that, and I was like, okay, two things. One, this is nothing like our movie. And two, I love this movie. This is great until the end.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the ending, not great.
Yeah, which a lot of people say about Doomsday. They're like, wow, you really fucked up that ending.
Well, I feel it's pretty different.
For the same reason. It just got like veered off. But I just think that they had such a great contained story going on. It was such a tight thriller, and then it just got too big. But that movie really drove me crazy because I refused to watch any bomb shelter movies until after we had the bulk of the movie done because I didn't want to steal from anything, at least not consciously. So I watched The Divide, The Road, which is what I pitched the movie as, The Road Meets Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah, that's what got me to take it home for sure.
It's the best description I've got. I mean, people are like, what?
Yeah, I think it's super fitting, really. I mean, I can't think of any better way to describe it myself.
So I watched like those, and it was always a matter of like, okay, how is there light? Because it's like oil lanterns would be the only source of light, just subterranean. You know, how would they shower? How would they go to the bathroom? Like all the survival stuff, because I'm obsessed with survival stories too. And all these movies, I'm like, oh, they just cheat. 10 Cloverfield Lane, they've got a shower. They have plumbing. They've got all the food they need. Like, their starvation is never an option.
Yeah.
You know, the actors not looking attractive is never an option. The Divide, which is supposed to be like really gritty and grimy, they have power, they have beds, and I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, although The Divide, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's from Chris.
No, I haven't. I've seen Cloverfield Lane a great many times, but I haven't seen The Divide.
The Divide's a really great movie. It's got Michael Biehn from Aliens in it, or Michael Biehn. It's a good movie, but they actually pissed me off because they had a blow mold Santa, which was like the ultimate prop I was trying to find for this movie. And the 70s blow mold, like plastic lawn ornament or decorations
It's a shame you didn't run into me sooner, because I could have given you one.
I ended up finding one at an antique store run by a guy who was in some John Waters movies, which blew my skull apart. So he just gave it to me, that was a whole other interview there. But those things are ludicrously expensive. Vintage ones is like a weird collector's market. So I'm like, oh, this is the obvious prop. And I just could not find one for like a solid year. And then I watched 10 Cloverfield or The Divide, and there is a scene where the light source is literally one of those. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, that would be pretty
neat.
neat.
So angry about it. But I obviously I was trying to just think of things realistically. Like, I did a lot of research on bomb shelters. I have actually a really great photo book called Waiting for the End that had bomb shelters from across the world. And I just wanted to kind of see what the reality of it all would be. So I based a lot of it on real life. And then, from there, I just put my own little weird influences on it.
Well, I mean, I think that it all there's a lot of love that's in the movie, and you can really tell that, especially when you listen to all like the commentary and see the behind the scenes things.
Definitely, there was a lot of something in there.
So my next question is almost the reverse of that. If you had people like my co-host Mike, who were not a big fan of this, but still are interested in checking out independent horror, and again, specifically some stuff that you have done, what would you recommend that they check out?
To anyone out there who does not like White Doomsday, of which there are many, thank you for watching it. I appreciate it. If you don't like it, that's totally cool too. It's definitely not for everybody. So if you're not into bleak nihilism and existential dread, the old real splatter stuff is super fun and goofy and offensive and disgusting. So check out Womb for Two, check out The Stall, Long Pig, My Friend Lawrence, it's all on YouTube. We have a DVD set called Suburban Holocaust, which collects a lot of the old shorts with a lot of extras and special effects tutorials and fun stuff like that if you're into that kind of stuff. The short fiction that I've had about 5 or 6 stories published. That stuff veers from like gross out erotica to really, really somber, serious stuff like Doomsday. So I kind of have one foot in each world. I'm like, I love John Waters and Troma, but I also love like David Cronenberg and like art house drama and stuff. So it's just a weird mix of stuff. But all the projects I'm doing going forward, I'm kind of mixing the two of those things. Like I want the personal rawness of like an art house movie, but like kind of encapsulated in a B movie world, if that makes any sense. So it's kind of a little weird mix of that, I think. So I don't know, there's something for everyone. Or you just completely hate everything I do, which is totally fair. That's fine too. So
is there anything that you're working on now that you're able to talk about in any detail?
Yes. Yeah, the next project I really want to do is called Dead Format, and it's again based on a short story I'd written, and it's this is going to come really out of left field, but it's a meditation on grief and loss, and basically like losing someone's about a kid whose dad has passed away, but it's all framed within the death of video stores.
Okay, that's
so it's about like a VHS rental store, and I think that we spend a lot of time talking about the psychological and emotional impact that losing a person has, but we don't really talk about losing like a business or a place that we'd go and hang out. Like the video store shaped me as a person in ways that I'm still finding out about. And like, it sounds stupid to say that, but like,
I think it's a very real thing. Like these places hold meaning.
There's a reason that nostalgia is such a powerful drug. And
yeah, definitely.
So much of my formative years were spent there. I mean, it was my horror education, learning about films and just, the internet didn't exist when I was a kid. It wasn't until I was in, 3rd, 4th grade, 5th grade that the internet, like AOL 1.0 came out. And the internet was a very different place than it was now. So like you didn't find out about stuff by going on like the top 10 list of crazy apocalypse movies. you just had to find it out in the wild. And the story is kind of about that. It's about a video store that's going out of business, and some shit happens, and it's basically, it's very sad, but it's also pretty funny. And there's a chainsaw disembowelment. So, it's gonna be good fun. Then I have a feature about a filmmaker trying to follow his dreams and make his first feature-length film, and how it ruins his life, essentially. That being creative is a compulsion, not a choice. And for a lot of people, it really does end poorly. So that's kind of the tagline, I think, is the most telling about what this movie is. It's for whom the muse tolls. It's kind of where we're going with it. So that's like way off in the future, but that's something I've been writing on and off for like a decade. That is, again, an ultra personal movie that's probably going to veer into some pretty melancholy territory.
That sounds really cool, and I'm really excited for that to take shape.
Checks in the mail.
So again, is there like anything else that maybe we didn't touch on that you'd like to maybe like shine a light on before we wrap this up?
Yeah, the biggest thing is I mentioned it earlier, The Brilliant Terror, which is a documentary about, grassroots horror filmmaking. They followed me for a decade, filming me behind the scenes on stuff. I was not originally the main focus of the documentary. I was the last interview they had done, and it completely changed the direction of the documentary, and then they started following me. So I'm the main subject of it. There's a lot of other really great filmmakers, so don't worry, you don't have to listen to me talk for 80 minutes. There's other people, too, that are far more talented. But it's a really, really great doc just about why we do the stuff that we do, and why horror, and a lot of just, raw in the trenches, behind the scenes footage of making the stall. Doomsday is in there, my personal life, and all the things that I've been telling you in this. You can literally watch it happen in this documentary. It's on the festival circuit right now. We world premiered at Aero Fright Fest, which blows my skull apart in London. Like, Aero Video is my mecca, and to be part of that festival is amazing. Hopefully it'll be playing at some more festivals soon, and they're talking about distribution, so everyone should be able to watch it hopefully sometime soon. But really, really, really interesting documentary. Lots of great people. So check that out. Realsplatter.com. That's my website. Real with 2 E's, like a reel of film, because we shoot digitally, so that makes perfect sense. You can hit me up on Facebook. I'm on Twitter under Real Splatter. The YouTube channel, obviously, there's all the old short films on there. And we do have copies of Suburban Holocaust Real Splatter Volume 1 available if you want to collect the old short films and watch commentaries and, see stupid behind the scenes stuff and learn how to make fake blood and zombie guts and all that good stuff. It's available on the website.
Well, you heard it from him. Definitely go check that out and check out Real Splatter. And
obviously, White Doom, and obviously buy White Doomsday, screamreleasing.com. Blu-rays, there's signed copies available. DVD, you can also buy it like Target.com, Amazon, but I don't get a dime out of any of that. So buy direct if you want to support indie film.
Buy a signed one. I have one, and it's pretty cool. Mike, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I really hope that we get to do this again. Maybe we'll watch another one of your films, or you can come on as a guest sometime. It would be great to have you on again.
To be back. That would be absolutely a pleasure.
And to everybody who listened, thank you so much. Again, please go check out Real Splatter and Scream Team. And we will be back to our regular weekly upload schedule as soon as the new year hits. So thank you guys so much again for listening, and have a happy holiday.